make a short introduction of the project, and then we will have each partner presenting their experience of how they have developed their plans. And then we will have a session to interact and to exchange experience. The idea is that really learning from what each of us have done, we will be able also to produce recommendations, not only for the implementation of the gender equality plans, but also for other organizations wishing to develop the gender equality plans in the future. So I will start sharing my screen to make a presentation of the ATHENA project, and then we will pass to our partners. So let me know if you can see my screen. Just 1 second. Good. You can see my screen, right? Yes. Wonderful. Great. So I will be short since we all know the project, but I know we have some newcomers to ATHENA. So, okay. So, you know that the overall objective of the project is to support our partners, which are 6 research performing organizations and 2 research funding organizations, in developing and implementing their gender equality plans. These are the gender equality plans.
I see the presentation. Do you see the presentation?
No, we can't see.
Yeah, so
you can see now?
No.
Yeah. 1 second.
Thanks for informing me. Maybe I should do it like this. Like this, you can see it.
Yes.
Can you? Now it's working?
Yes, it's working, but we see the all slides, also the next one.
And now?
Oh, yeah, it's perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. So the objective of the project is, of course, to develop the gender equality plans. And this is the most tangible result, the most important tangible results of the project. But we have an intangible result, which I think is as much important as the gender equality plan, which is to generate a systemic institutional change in our organization. So we do not want only to develop a piece of paper, which is the plan, but we want really to have a change in all the across all the staff and students of an organization, and also, of course, the leadership of each organization. You see, in fact, here that within each research performing organization and research funding organization that we involve in the project, we got in contact with, and we have involved different staff profiles of the organization, starting from the high and middle management to researchers and professors, human resources professionals, the administrative staff, and also students on a voluntary basis. So within each organization, we have targeted all these profiles because this is what we need to achieve this institutional change I was mentioning before. Then, in addition to the staff within each organization, we rely also on external gender experts, on the members of the advisory board, and we made an extensive view of the GEAR tool developed by the European Institute of Gender Equality, and we are collaborating with other gender networks and gender projects to exchange experience, as we will do today. So the results of all this interaction and of the input and feedback that we get from all these people and organizations, the gender equality plans have been developed. What we have done so far, you see that we start in February last year developing not only the dissemination and communication strategy, but also starting building the common database for the gender equality audit. The first part of the project has really consisted in an extensive work to collect data, interview people to make this gender equality audit, gender equality assessment. Then we have also done an analysis of what was the situation at national level in each of the partner country. And this has been the first part of the work. And then we have started working more on creation of the gender equality plans, starting with collecting and analyzing best practices on gender equality plans. That was the result of deliverable 4.1, and starting with the training of the members of the project, the members of the gender equality committee that we have established in each organization. And also we have developed gender and diversity standards to make sure that there was a common basis across all the gender equality plans. And along with all these activities, we have also created the ATHENA e-platform, where we are basically hosting all the training material and other resources that could be useful for us and for external organizations for the development of the plans. And of course, all the communication and dissemination activities that we have performed so far and that we will see more in detail in a few minutes. So you see here the pair diagram of our project, so how we have structured the activities of the project. And you can see that the first content work package, which was work package 2 on gender equality assessment, is completed now. We are in the process of completing work package 3 with training activities, learning activities we are conducting today. And we are, I would say, really at the core of the project with work package 4, where we are in which we are developing, or we have already developed, and we are implementing the gender equality plans. The gender equality plans implementation will be monitored and evaluated on the work package 5. And then we will see that we have devoted a specific work package, which is work package 6, to think of how to sustain the replication of the gender equality plans, the replication of our activities, and the replication also of our methods. And I would say that the mutual learning workshop is part of this learning of how to ensure that more gender equality plans will be developed in an effective and successful ways across Europe. You see here, so the main deliverables that have been submitted for the external attendance is for you to know that this material is available on our project website and on our platform. And I think for partners, it's just to see all the path that we have done together and all the results that we have already achieved. So you see here, deliverable 2.1 is the common database for gender equality audit. Deliverable 2.2 is the report on the national status in gender equality in all the partners country. And deliverable 2.3 is the gender equality report of each partner, so of each organization, which describe the situation in each organization. You see here pictures. We thought that for the capacity building activities, this was possibly the best way to portray it. So you see here pictures of some of the online trainings that we have conducted. When the capacity building activities started, we were of course in the middle of COVID. So out of all our plans of having physical meetings, physical workshops, we resulted in conducting those online, but we had really a good response. It worked well. And you see here from this picture, the result of those. There were some physical events indeed, despite of COVID. You see here also some picture, but it's true that it was the minority, and those took place rather at the end of the training program rather than the beginning. Then you see here the deliverable of work package 4. So we had, I mentioned before that the Gender Equality Plans Best Practices Compendium, where we collected all the best practices on gender development of gender equality plans. Then we have deliverable 4.2, which is setting gender and diversity standards that our equality plans comply with. And again, this is a very useful tool for other organizations willing to develop the gender equality plans. And then we have a toolkit for transforming the institutional culture in terms of gender aspects. As I said before, achieving institutional change is for sure a very important objective and expected results of the project, but of course it's difficult to achieve it. So we have developed a specific deliverable for that. And then the last deliverable is the compilation of all the gender equality plans that we have submitted. You see then for package 5, the guidelines on how to do the monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of the gender equality plan. And for the sustainability, what we have done so far has been starting compiling a database of stakeholders that we want to involve. Why? Because we want, through the gender equality plans, to reach also the society and not only the staff in our organization. And for this, we need to know who we want to target, who we want to involve and interact with to spread the word about the gender equality plan, spread the word about gender equality, the importance of gender equality. This is one part of the work done under Work Package 6. We are trying in this effort to reach out of our organization. We have organized also a webinar with Euraccess. This is important organization supporting researchers, mobility and researchers' career across Europe, and was also an interesting event where we could exchange on how actually gender equality, for instance, impact also mobility of researchers. And we know that mobility of researchers in many cases is also a criterion of performance for a researcher, but we discuss of how actually this researchers' mobility can be affected by limitation in having not gender neutral policies. And then another important activity is or result is the development of the ATHENA e-platform, where you can find materials of our training, our ATHENA toolkit, but also you find here the women researchers database. So we are compiling profile of women researchers which are telling their stories, are inspiring other people with some quotes or some specific messages. And the aim is really to give visibility to women researchers across Europe through the ATHENA e-platform. So along with the platform, you can also find information on the ATHENA website, where you can find the progress and results of our projects, so the deliverables and other publications. And then we have really a wide variety of actions of dissemination and communication actions that we have done either across the target groups of the project or external target groups. So we have organized an international conference this year in Las Palmas. So we are really making efforts to reach other organizations and other people outside the project. And to those attendants to this webinar, to this workshop, if you want to collaborate with ATHENA, please get in contact with us, and we will be glad to find a way to collaborate and to establish synergies with your organization or with your project. So what is next? We are in the process of finalizing the gender training program to all our partnering organization. We will have other mutual learning workshop in January next year and in January 2024, again, to exchange what is the experience of partners in the implementation and in the monitoring and evaluation of the gender equality plans, so that from this exchange of experiences, we will be able to improve our activities, but also the activities of other organizations. The gender equality plans are currently starting their implementation. We will be monitored and evaluated, of course, and we will continue doing our sustainability activities through the organization of local events and other webinars to facilitate the replication of the project and of the development of the gender equality plans. So for now, I'm finished. And I would like now to give the floor to our partners that will be presenting their experience with the development of the gender equality plans. So we start now with the Joseph Stephan Institute, which will be, whose experience will be presented by Romana Jordan. Romana, I think you want to share your screen for the presentation, right?
Yes, thank you, Michelle, and good morning to everybody. Yes, I will try to share the screen. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so good morning once again, and yes, I will talk about what was done in the framework of ATHENA project by Joseph Stephan Institute, and I have to stress already at the beginning that although here you can see also only my name, it's a collective work of 11 colleagues. We prepared everything according to the requests by coordinator. So contents is reflection of your suggestions. But first, I would like to say something about our institute so that you will have a feeling, what are we, who are we? We are an institute involved in basic and applied research. We have also good connections with industry. More than 1,200 employees, and you can see that we have more than 850 researchers. So this is our headquarters are in Ljubljana. All these buildings are is our institute. Here is per location for another building. Another building is across the street. You cannot see it. And we have also location about 20 kilometers far from Ljubljana, where is our research reactor and research departments for fusion, fission, environmental sciences, accelerators. And the name of our institute is according to it's the Joseph Stephan. He is the well-known physicist. But he has worked in most of his time in Vienna because we were part of that empire at that time. So usually people don't know that he is Slovenian. Stefan Boltzmann Constant, for example, is named by also by Joseph Stephan. So now we will jump to our project, ATHENA, and I will talk about pre-ATHENA times, so times when we, before year 2021, and then I will talk a little bit about what we did in the framework of this project. So pre-ATHENA times, we didn't have any policy or action plan on gender equality. By majority of people, of employees here, it was a perception that we don't need it, that everything is organized in equal, let's say, measures and for both the gender. And actually, we were not, let's say, we didn't take care about the differences and different needs, and not only these differences because of gender, but also, let's say, younger or more experienced colleagues and so on. GSI actually was involved in early 2000s in some EU projects tackle this topic, but it was more decision of departments, of heads of research departments. And this participation actually did not really involve some systemic changes at the institute. These departments organized, they collected some data, they organized some conferences, workshops, also published some books. But as I told you, no systemic change was introduced at the institute's level. In 2014, there was a systemic change, so we adopted policy on measures to protect the personal dignity of GSI's employees, but it was not done in a really transparent way. Some of our respected colleagues were also members of our National Committee for Women in Science at the Ministry, and these are colleagues, Professor Maja Remškar, Professor Dunja Mladenič, and Professor Sasha Novak-Krmpotić. All three are now in different ways included also in the project ATHENA. Just before we started to cooperate with consortium, which is now also ATHENA consortium, we had a big support from our management to join one of the consortia, which were at that time trying to get the project in gender equality by calls initiated by European Commission within Horizon 2020 program. And as you know, because majority of partners are the same, we tried 5 times to finally won the project ATHENA, which started last year. But quite, I mean, very early when the project, when ATHENA really started, we decided to also prepare a so-called action plan, which was a compendium of all actions which are planned within the ATHENA project. And that action plan, we discussed with heads of research department, or heads of units, and it was really widely discussed and then also formally adopted, so that we have also a formal basis for our GEP. Is not just ATHENA project, but also this pre-action plan, I would say, which was already adopted last year at our institute. And in August last year, we established also GEP committee. Then we followed, of course, everything what was suggested within the ATHENA project, and we are very thankful to all the project partners which participated with their knowledge in the ATHENA project. We built database, quantitative and qualitative database, but very interesting. I would like to share with you only one graph, example of quantitative data, which is practically not part of our quantitative database, but an example, good example, what happened when we established GEP committee. One of its members, namely Professor Miha Čekada, said, if I'm a researcher, I need to do some pre-analysis for myself. I don't think that we really need, GEP, but I will do the pre-analysis. And what he did, he collected the data of for gender disaggregated data for heads of departments and scientific council and total management from year 1992 to year 2021. And he was surprised, and so were also some of his colleagues. He published this data in with some comments also in our internal journal, and I think that this article and his analysis also helped to raise awareness at our institute a lot. You see that these trends are really not positive for us. Now about qualitative data. In the staff survey, in our staff survey, we have quite a good participation rate. More than 20% of employees actually immediately answered to this survey, which showed a big interest towards these questions. 48% of women and 55% of men, which is also good. And I can say that we have presentation of all research departments in this staff survey. Not so good presentation of or reflection of ideas of our independent centers and administration. So this is a challenge for us to improve their activities and to include them into activities of GEP. But their participation may be bigger than the formal numbers show, because more than 25% of participants did not specify their unit or department. I will show only 3 examples of this staff survey, because it shows quite good perception towards gender equality. Not quite, but good. In principle, it showed good perception about gender equality, about respect of both genders, and so on. But there are, of course, also some very clever questions which show that we really need to do more at the Institute. For example, when appointing people to managerial positions, only a little bit more than 2% respondents think that women are slightly preferred, but more than 24% think that men are preferred. This is and as I told you, we have more answers from men than from women, so it's very interesting. And then another 2 examples: recognition of intellectual contributions, negligible advantage towards women, but quite significant advantage towards men, more than 25%. And exactly opposite picture when we are talking about allocation of administrative tasks. Let's say about 3% advantage towards men, and quite a big advantage towards women. So women are more occupied by administrative staff. And this can show also some, these are signs of unconscious sciences which are built in our working environment. So this is a good basis, these are good arguments for us to prepare gender equality plan, which I will not talk about this because it was prepared according to the methodology suggested by our partners, and we sent this plan to Consulta Europa in June this year. It is not formally approved yet because our scientific council was occupied by other staff which are connected with the new law on research, national law on research. So, but it was agreed that the plan will be part of of its agenda in August or in September. What I would like to stress, when we are talking about how does GEP reflects our employees, that we really followed systematical approach to include in actions employees from all GSI units. We have 28 research departments, a lot of independent centers, then also administrative units, and we really followed systematical approach that at least one representative is part of our ATHENA consortia, or part of GEP committee, or part of focus group, or was interviewed, so that really all are covered. But here, besides of this, here are our main actors. Of course, all my colleagues in JSI's ATHENA consortium, then of course JSI GEP committee, and besides this also our director, which is supporting our actions. Also big support from administrative staff, but there was a challenge to discuss with them, but a big support because they actually collected all the data we needed. And of course, we still count on GSI Scientific Council support. And of course, we could not manage to do the task as well without external gender expert, Professor Dr. Milica Antić-Gaber. Main barriers. Of course, first one is data collection for gender indicators, because we didn't have gender disaggregated data for GSI employees. All have to be done, have to be collected manually. Then, of course, lack of in-house knowledge on GEP, and here we are very happy that we could use knowledge of ATHENA consortia. Then, of course, additional work burden for key actors. We at the Institute, it could be a surprise, but we don't have HR department. And of course, we don't have any person dedicated to deal with gender equality. So everything should be done within our consortia. And of course, then are also these organizational aspects, which I can explain later if there will be a question about it. Our GEP has, of course, parts which were defined within the ATHENA project. So I will not read everything about all the lists. First one is work-life balance and organizational culture. I would like to say here that that we are already we have been already implementing some of the tasks or actions which are part of GEP, although it is not formally adopted yet. For example, changes of internal acts and also gender disaggregated HR data, which are now already semi-automated. Then gender balance in leadership and decision-making. We have been implementing already promotion of and nomination of women for awards. Then next one is gender equality in recruitment and career progression. Establishment of HR unit, of course, very important, long-term influence on better working environment at Joseph Stefan Institute. I am very happy to announce and to give you information that we already published a call for a special employee dedicated for gender issues. And according to some information, we are the first such institution in Slovenia. So we are slowly, I would say, moving towards leadership position in our country. The process was, we are now in the process, we already selected the person and we are now in the process, negotiation process for signing the agreement. I think that we will reach agreement very soon, and then we expect this person to start working for us in September. We have been also implementing promotion of gender for balance for awards, grants, recruitments. Integrating gender dimension into research and teaching content. We already partly implemented use of gender sensitive language in our internal acts. And we will actually start so that we will use this language when preparing all new acts, and then we will see how many old acts should be also changed. Measures against gender-based violence, including sexual harassment. No implementation here yet. We will accelerate activities with the new employee. So if I have to summarize what is our GEP about, what does it mean for our institute, I will say something like this. GEP implements systemic changes of our working environment, which will be, after implementing the activities, more dynamic. It will be more inclusive, more open, and more transparent. Monitoring and evaluation, again, here we are following the normal approach which was defined by ATHENA project. And as I told you, we already automated some of the collection of some of the data or indicators. And we are going to prepare annual monitoring and reporting on the status of GEP implementation, which will be part of our wider annual assessment report of Josef Stefan Institute. Dissemination. Inside our institute, we opened a special dedicated web page, GSI for Gender Equality. We published several articles in our internal journal, GSI News, which is also broadly sent to our partners. We are organizing workshops, lectures, roundtables. We will actively campaign and are campaigning for participation, but we will accelerate these actions in autumn. And we are going to publish everything what is going on within the project also at our TV channel. Outside the GSI, as you know, we are very active in inviting external stakeholders. And I can assure you that we will even increase their numbers. We are in discussion with some additional. We are disseminating ATHENA newsletter, social media pages, and of course, we are going to organize workshops and lectures, and we are going to participate and give lectures, talks also at the events which will be organized by others. This is my last slide. I would really like to stress that all my colleagues have actually some other primary work, and this is some kind of side work which we are sure is very important for our institute. And I would like to now to read their names because each and every of them is very active. Professor Borka Jervan-Blažić, Assistant Professor Ita Junkar, Professor Spomenka Kobe, Miss Alma Mehle, Professor Barbara Malić, Professor Ingrid Milošev, Professor Dunja Mladenić, Professor Maja Remškar, Dr. Melita Tramšek, Dr. Vida Vukašinović. So thank you to all of you colleagues, and also thank you to colleagues in ATHENA projects for your knowledge and suggestions how to proceed.
Thank you very much, Romana, for the presentation and for reminding us that there are always a lot of people working behind each organization. It's very important. So, and thanks also for respecting the time frame. So I would like now to invite the second partner. I'm not opening the floor for question because we will please keep your question for the last part of the workshop. So now I would like to invite Joanna Rudaska from University Jana Kochanowski to make your presentation.
I hope that you see my presentation.
Yes, we do. Just need to put it in
okay,
presentation mode. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Hello again. It's real nice to see you, even online. I would like to, together with Anna Kaminska, who is the manager of the project, and she is present right now here, we would like to present you our experience as the university with that process of preparation of GEP from our point of view. I won't concentrate on statistics and because I would like to share with you challenges that we met and the different kind of good practices that you can take from us. So of course, I put the slide here. It's obvious that we have an ATHENA project, but it's very, very important because I personally doubt if we could prepare such GEP without a project. Yeah, so it is some kind of kick that we, thanks to the project that we made, and we prepared such good GEP at our university. It was very important for us, of course, because it's imposed by Erasmus, by Horizon Europe, and that all universities universities, public organizations should have such plan. Maybe we could prepare and we would prepare something like that, but it wouldn't be so so good and prepared thanks to all that tools and diagnosis and access to your knowledge and the whole consortium knowledge. So we took that process that all partners within the ATHENA project took. So we analyzed documentation, then we had that audit and some storytelling, focus groups, and online survey. What was challenging, we had to cooperate with other departments. We had to enhance other departments to share the data. Of course, there was formal letters that they can give us all documentation, all statistics, GDPR consequences were also secured. So it was quite challenging to inform everybody. So our team, there's a few of us in ATHENA project team, we were divided in that role, and each of us had to focus on a different kind of activity. The most challenging was the last phase, online survey, because we couldn't enhance employees to fill it. Maybe the English language was the barrier, we do not know, but I feel that was the biggest problem to get feedback from our colleagues from the university using that online survey. So that was the biggest challenge on that phase. Because the same as Romana said, we haven't got the in-house knowledge, so we had to become some kind of specialists, maybe not experts in that subject, and it was also a challenge for us. We involve in our work also external experts, but it was possible only thanks to the ATHENA project budget. So it's also worth to underline. We use all that guidelines, tutorials, good practices from you. We took part in a lot of trainings, meetings, and webinars, and thanks to that, we prepared the diagnosis and we could build the plan in the shape that we will present you. The most important step is to prepare some kind of environment inside the university, and we did it. Of course, we established some kind of a support body, Gender Equality Plan committee, and there is over 20 people from different departments, academic teachers, but also administrative staff and such called VIPs that can make some decision. It's very important body because one of the supports is also ATHENA project teams, and what will be when ATHENA will finish, will end. So we feel and we know that that committee should take the role and continue the work of ATHENA project team, because at this moment ATHENA project team is the main body, I can say, and motor of all activities connected with GEP. We also stopped the bodies such called Gender Equality Ombudswoman. So and we cooperate with all departments. So it was one of the very important steps. Thanks to that step, thanks to inviting people to that group, to committee, we enhanced their knowledge, we inspired them, we raised awareness about that topic, and it was also good for the next steps. And finally, after many consultations, using all that guides that we produced within the ATHENA project, we prepared GEP for Jan Kochanowski University, and you can see it's in Polish that this document, which is titled that our university will be social responsible. So during that consultation phase, we discussed the subject, and we know that the GEP is only the first step, that we should go wider and also include in the future other elements connected with diversity. So it was published. We also have internal website when we have some kind of knowledge room, and we will put their trainings and other documents that are very important from that part for our staff students, doctoral students too. The structure is was almost the same that the guide that we worked out during the ATHENA project, one of outputs that already was presented. Our main mission is building a work environment that ensures the harmonious development and interaction of employees in one of the university's priorities. That's our priority. So we have the methodology, diagnosis, and our plan with 7 goals. 7, quite big number, but we decided that 7 covers all areas that we want to touch. Of course, they are connected with all that guidelines of European Commission which are imposed. So we concentrate on promotion awareness because we feel that that's the most important subject in our case. So we should promote awareness not only within the academic teachers, but also within students groups, doctoral students, and we also put there are some activities connected with recruitment process, work-life balance, of course, equality in teachings, researchings, and others that you know. So that's typical 7 goals, I could say that, but we include all imposed by guidelines and directions. And our main challenges. So there was a lot of questions that me and Anna faced, and our team, ATHENA team, during the process. So why are you doing this? There is no problem. So that was the most common questions, because there is no problem. Diagnosis shows that there is so many women at the university. Also there are management boards, so there is no problem. So our role was to raise awareness that it can be challenged. It do not have to be the problem, but we have to think about it because there are some points in our diagnosis that should see the light, and everybody should know about that. We also faced that it's quite touchy subjects, and not everyone, even if there are some kind of professors and other people, do not want necessarily to participate in that groups, workshops. It's some kind of resistance of the subject. Maybe it's imposed also because the diagnosis of whole Polish activities in that subject is not so good. What we heard is also, I'm a woman, but I don't need any special treatment. So it's since such a weak side or something like that, from women's side, we heard that a lot. And after all, during that consultation of the results of diagnosis, so we showed the results, and there are, of course, more women at the university, also in the management board. And what do you mean? Where's the problem? So again, we do not have to work. We do not need GEP at our university, maybe in not that shape. And we had to use such argument that Horizon Europe needs it sometimes. What about men? Now they will be disadvantaged by the system. So it was also a question that raised during the consultation. So we had to underline that it's about the equality, and it's very, very important to remember about that. And the funny one, so I know I'm now at the university, that one from Women Project. So oh my God, again, you are from that Women Project. So it was, and it's still some kind of experiment for me personally. That's the last one, is my personal. So what about the recommendation from our side? The support and commitment of top management, that empowerment for the team, ATHENA team, other team committee, it's must have. You cannot implement GP when your VIPs do not support you, and they do not want to implement such things. So it's very important to start with that when you want to prepare the GP. be building a network of ambassadors at the university. So we try to find some good ghosts that will help us, maybe not officially, but sometimes will support us also when we need some kind of information, and they will recommend us, and that it's important. So we try to build some kind of network within the university of people who research that subject, but also can support us in different ways. External stakeholders and their involvement is quite difficult topic for us. We are after the first workshops, it was at, I think 10 participants only, but the discussion was really fruitful. But we see that there are some organizations, especially NGOs, which are interested in the topic, but others not, especially from our perspective. Local and regional authorities, some city halls, marshal office, are not interested, and we still have to work on that subject. So that's our goal, to involve more external stakeholders, because we should disseminate and enhance them to implement such documents also in their organization. So we recommend also small steps. Our strategy was evolution, not revolution. So our GEP is not so maybe innovative, it's not so risky. We have small steps, some training plans, some other rules that we want to implement at the university during the next 4 years, but it's not a revolution. It was some kind of resistance, but it was also some kind of anxiety, because we do not have budget after the ATHENA project will end. So now we use the budget of the ATHENA project, but we have to think what will be the next steps. So we have to plan it at the beginning of the year with our authorities. Reality, so our plan is quite reality. Our goals are smart, so we can measure them, and we think and we believe that we can achieve them. So it's not evolution, not revolution for us, and we are involved in that project. We believe with our ATHENA team in that project and goals that we do good work, and we believe also that all that ambassadors and other people at our university just need some time to also mention that plan is important for us. So that's all from our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for the presentation. I like very much the slogan, evolution, not revolution. So I would now give the floor to Laura Grunberg from Bucharest University. And
Laura, you have to unmute.
Continue respecting the time as our speakers have done so far. It's great.
Could you see?
Laura, we see already your screen. Yes, just
Okay.
put it in presentation mode, please.
Presentation mode, slideshow.
Yes, slideshow.
It is better now?
Not really, but if you don't manage, I think we can see.
You can live with this? Let me see.
Fine. If you go to slideshow, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't know. Slideshow from the beginning.
From
now
the
it's
beginning.
better.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody,
Yes.
and I'm glad to see you and to hear where we are, all of us. I will try to be brief. I also so I represent the University of Bucharest, and we took also a different approach to our brief presentation. We will not focus on the presentation of the University of Bucharest. For the newcomers in the consortium, they could find information on the website, and we also will not concentrate on the state of affair of the situation of the University of Bucharest based on the qualitative and quantitative research that has been done also in our university as everywhere else in the other partner institutions, because we had the chance to share some information with the consortium, and we concentrated on other issues for this presentation. I will start by the end of the presentation. So by saying that we've done it. So the University of Bucharest has a plan for gender equality that has been approved, signed, approved, voted by the Senate of the university in April, I think, 2022. So from this point of view, we are very happy. What is this document? The way it was designed. It was designed taking into consideration that it should be considered as a strategic document. That it is very important to be a realistic plan and a realistic document that should address the issues that have been pinpointed within the diagnosis that was done in the institution. And of course, we considered it as a dynamic process, a dynamic document that will allow further development and further changes, mainly because, at least for our university, this is a document that was signed and approved for a period of 2 years, so 2022-2024. But in the document, it is stipulated that the gender equality plan will have a duration of 4 years. Only this one, the first one, is for 2 years, because in 2024 there are elections at the university, and they decided it will be a start for a new stage, the second stage of the plan to start for 4 years in 2024. Taking this into account, very briefly also in terms of the pre-gender equality plan, I would pinpoint to the good parts that could be mentioned within our university, that the representation in terms of gender balance in representation, the university is really in better shape than before. So it was really an increase of number of women present part of the leadership positions within the university, and this was a good start. Also, for us, it was a very good start, the fact that the university already undertook a good initiative of improving its statistical database, improving and making it integrative, and really improving the type of indicators that are collected. It was a team and an Office of Statistics that really make important steps. And this was very helpful for us in order to find information. And it's very good for the future of the gender equality plan, when, of course, indicators much more gender sensitive should be implemented. And of course, for our university, we would mention as a good premise is the fact that we really have a sort of critical mass of, let's say, specialists in the field. In the university, there is an MA program dedicated to gender equality at the Faculty of Political Science. There are a number of professors that are doing gender mainstreaming within their different kind of courses, of course, mainly and in the area of social science, social science, yes, sociology, psychology, education, and so on, history, and also quite a lot of MA thesis, bachelor, PhDs are really look also at the gender dimension topics. So at least from this perspective, we consider as the plan started with some good ground, on some good grounds. In terms of the process of developing the gender equality plan, as was the case for all of us, it was developed in direct coordination with the implementation committee that was designed. And between February 21 and let's say March 22, with the support of the institution management and the implementation committee, there were a lot of things happened in view of preparing the gender equality plan. We done the report of the university, as all the partners have done, and discussed within the university about the results. We used the compendium of good practice and disseminated it within the university. We've done the trainings that are also done by all members of consortiums with the GEP committee. We designed and launched the website, and quite recently we also launched Facebook for the project. And we had a lot of consultations within the University of Bucharest. I would mention, of course, permanent dialogues with the committee members, with the management of the university. We use the official page of the project in order to get more information and suggestions. We try to reach the students. And what we've done, and we think it was a good practice and a success story, let's say, we created an informal network of female academics interested in promoting gender equality. This network increased in terms of emails, circular emails. We met several times, and there were a lot of discussions of good suggestions. There are some plans for the future. I think this is also something that was good in terms of this part of preparation, and it will be very useful in the future. In terms of the gender equality plan, we design it along 8 areas, objectives areas that are presented in this slide. I will immediately comment a little bit about this choice of 8, because it's quite interesting. Our assumptions when we start designing the plan, and what was in reality happening. And I'm referring to the evolution and not revolution. We also had a lot of discussion about what kind of product to offer in order to be supported by the management of the university. I will not go into details. All of us have prepared the plan. All of us have prepared all this kind of additional type of reporting by each type of activities, and we've done the same. And in a way, each of us probably it's a personalized plan. So there are specific activities that we consider appropriate to be undertaken by our university. Nice, just for our first comment on our page on the day that we put the plan that was approved, and we were announcing the victory. The first comment on the web page from somebody was, "You fight against God, it's not good." So this was not promising, let's say, for the team, but on the contrary, on the other side of the coin, it was received very well. In terms of our remark, I would start by saying that it was a puzzlement for the implementation team. It was in terms of how the plan was from the moment we draft with the team, the ATHENA team drafted, proposed a first draft to the GEP committee. And then this draft entered in the whole bureaucratic process of approval. It was for us an unexpected smooth process. So our assumption was that we should be very careful how we word we should be very careful not to be an evolution and not a revolution, because it will be rejected. We've made a lot of we were afraid of a lot of things, and but in terms of strategic framing, we had a lot of discussions, and we were not very we were very worried about this. What kind of framing, how much we can put there, and then we decided, let's do and introduce things that we are considered very important in all 8 areas, more than, in a way, Athena asked for us. 5 were absolutely to be introduced, because probably there will be things that will be not accepted, and to have what to cut from the plan. Nothing was cut. We received almost no comment. On our draft, we received some grammatical, please change and put a comma, things like that. So the way we drafted, almost exactly, it looked in the final stage. So good for us is that really we it is not a soft plan. It is really with strong issues concerning sexual harassment procedures, how to reevaluate staff evaluation, gendering statistics, introducing materials for inclusive language, do assessment of curricula for certain faculties. It is not a soft plan. And in a way, we could have been more revolutionary, because it was accepted with no problem. Yes. Now this is kind of smooth process, could be a too smooth process. So this is a puzzlement that we mentioned. It could be the good. It could be a success story. It could be on the good side, or it would be something that we should reflect, and we will see this in the process of implementation. Maybe there is really a committed management structure within the universities, and it is really no problem. Maybe, and for sure, I know the rector and the team on the top of the management, they are very skillful and diplomatic in institutional communication. They knew how to deliver it to the Senate. Because we know in the Senate there are some conservative voices. Maybe there is a confirmation that the gender barometer for Romania, the last one, is showing that there are much more diverse attitudes towards gender equality and less conservative ones. But on the other hand, maybe this kind of lack of resistance to the implementation or to producing of a plan is also a form of resistance. It's a sort of lack of interest. Maybe the document was really not read but approved. It was just considered as opportunistic need because you cannot you cannot access funds. This is something we reflect upon. In terms of additional remarks and problem identified, of course, as for all our colleagues, for sure they will mention the same, this kind of unfortunate European and global context within which we try to make out of gender equality a strategic topic in our institutions. The combination of crises, don't forget that Romania is also very close to Ukraine, and what is happening now has, I think for all of us, has an impact, but maybe Romania has a special geopolitical situation. All this was not good, I think, for all of us. What we also experience now when the plan is ready is that the disadvantages we all, I would say, we had in undertaking all this documentation, research component, training during the pandemic period, online more than face-to-face. Definitely in terms of certain gender topics that of course they are approached from an organizational perspective in the plan, but they involve also reflection on values of things that are quite personal sometimes, or perceived as being personal. This, I think it would have been, of course, much better to have all this done in normal conditions, and we felt this as a disadvantage. The same, we consider that now, looking back, really it would have been wonderful to have a longer period foreseen within the project for gathering data and producing the institutional report. Just recently, when we start the trainings for the staff in the university, when people are hearing about the plan, we are discovering information, we are discovering good contacts, we receive some comments. Definitely, from our point of view, the period was too short, and better report plans would have been a better starting point for designing and targeting better the plan. And also maybe for us, in terms of bureaucracy, at certain moment within this year of, you know, a lot of things that and time consuming things that we all had to do, sometimes we had the feeling that we have to report to the consortium in different ways, almost the same kind of information, and we felt a little bit that this is time consuming and should be revised a little bit. As additional remarks from our part, at this moment where we are, the plan is just signed and it started to be implemented. We have discussions how, and we try to put an agenda, and okay, for us it is clear what we have to do, at least in the till autumn. We also remarked, and this is much more a personal comment, it's not part of the team, I take it as a personal assumption. Maybe it's interesting to verify, maybe it's just an assumption that should be forgotten, should be put apart. We have at the University of Bucharest, as I told you, quite a number of people knowledgeable, and especially women knowledgeable about gender issues, teaching gender within their faculties. It was, I haven't seen very much support in terms of women academics with this kind of gender expertise, in terms of promoting informally, you know, as a good story within the University of Bucharest where they are. At least a certain official neutrality, maybe no desire to be directly associated with the project, maybe time constraints, maybe some sensitive individual ego because they were not part of the official team. I don't know, but in a way, I haven't felt this kind of, I felt this kind of reduced solidarity from some of the women academics that really are committed to the issue of gender equality. Also for students, it was much harder for us to get them comparing with other target groups. And we were surprised that in terms of formal commitment, quite a lot, much more men that maybe we envisaged in the beginning were at least formally with us. In terms of success stories that we can mention briefly now at this moment, I hope they will continue to be, and we'll have a long list. I mentioned already the informal network of women academics, that I think it's a great potential, and it's something that we consider it as a success story. And also I would like to tell you that we already, there were some connection and joint efforts already made between the ATHENA project and activities and the plan and some other initiatives within the university. For example, there is the first training with the administrative staff was not organized by ATHENA alone, but it was taken up by the larger program within the university. It's a program for collegial learning that was set up in the university. And they said, very well, come and we will organize within this collegial learning this kind of training. And this was very good for us in terms of organization. we have much more people maybe that we will able to do alone. And the other second connection joining that it was quite interesting. One of the vice rectors is in charge now of a project in which to increase diversity in the university with some funds from the Ministry of Education. And the project intends to produce modules for onboarding students, for the beginning foreigners. When they come, they should take some onboard courses like the American type of university. And they come to ATHENA and said, could you support us? It's also interesting for you. So on a voluntary basis, we work with them and support. And I think this is a good story. And of course, as the other colleagues mentioned, the main ingredient of our success story is that we are a good team. I will not read the names, but we are quite a good team, a good vibe. We work very well together, and I think the results are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura. You have provided also a lot of very insightful feedback. I would like to discuss afterwards. Good. Then, before we have our 5 minutes break, we have the presentation from Las Palmas University. So we have Carolina Mesa. Carolina, you should be able, we cannot hear you. You should activate your microphone.
Yeah. Hello.
Wonderful. Hi. We cannot see your screen, Carolina. Deberías compartir pantalla.
¿Cómo? No tengo presentación.
Okay.
No tengo
Okay. You will not make presentation. You will just comment. Okay.
Good morning to everyone. In my speech, I'm going to talk about the process of development of the second Gender Equality Plan of the University of Las Palmas of Gran Canaria. Particularly, I will refer to some difficulties that we have come across and about the current situation of our plan. Spanish law requires some formalities for the development and implementation of the GEP. Among others, the regulation states that the first phase of the GEP is to carry out a previous diagnosis of the situation. This diagnosis allows obtaining the necessary information to design and establish the measures and actions that must be adopted in the corresponding plan. Among others, the subjects that are studied in this diagnosis are the following: selection and hiring of the staff, access and promotion, working conditions, research staff, participation in government bodies, structure and classification of students, staff training programs, prevention of sexual and sexist harassment, language and communication, salary and wage audit. This diagnosis allows to understand the situation in which the university currently finds itself in the matters mentioned above, as well as to understand what actions and measures our GEP should include to palliate inequalities. Once this diagnosis was approved in May, a technical commission of experts of our university has been set up to develop the second GEP. This commission has proposed different actions, measures, and indicators to a commission for its negotiation and approval. This commission is made up of a total of 14 members that represent, on the one hand, the university government team, and on the other, the teaching and research staff and administration and services staff. Currently, 3 meetings have been held with a negotiated commission to approve the objectives and measures proposed by the technical commission to include in the GEP. In fact, the next meeting will be held tomorrow. Reaching this stage has not been an easy task because we have found some difficulties that have delayed the deadlines and therefore completing the plan. For example, one of the main difficulties has been collecting data by the university and its transfer to a new tool offered by the Spanish Ministry of Equality to be able to develop a salary database. This database is an essential matter to include in a Spanish GEP. The obligation that the GEP must be negotiated can lead to some difficulties and delays. Despite all of this, we have moved on and we are ending our GEP. The main points that will be included in the plan are the following: promotion of a culture of equality, with the aim of raising institutional commitment to equality. Participation and representation, to encourage and promote the participation of women in the different areas and institutions of the university. Access and promotion, to foment equal opportunities in the professional career. Teaching, research, and transfer. On the one hand, with the aim of promoting the gender approach in research and teaching. And on the other hand, promote the participation and leadership of women in research. Co-responsibility conciliation, to promote and ensure compliance with co-responsibility measures. Prevention of sexual harassment. In conclusion, the university keeps working to ultimate these measures, actions, and indicators to include them in our GEP. And we hope to have concluded by the coming weeks. That is all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Carolina, for your description of your process at the University of Las Palmas. We have now 5 minutes break before we pass to the last 4 presentation. So I say it's 10:30 here. So 11:30 in Brussels, 12:30 in Bulgaria. So let's come back in 5 minutes exactly at 35. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Morning again. I hope you could have enjoy this short break. We will have a longer one after the other 4 presentation, so that you can compile your ideas for the discussion. So I would like to invite now Miroslava Zelinska from Slovak Academy of Science.
Thank you very much. So I will try to share my screen.
Great.
Give me a second. Sorry.
We do see your screen, Miroslava. Everything is in place.
Great. Thank you very much. So thank you again for this opportunity to present our experience with preparing and implementing our gender equality plan at the Slovak Academy of Sciences. And in my short presentation, I want to cover both our success stories, challenges, and lessons learned from both small activities to maybe greater reflection of the role of gender equality within academia. Here at this slide, you can see issues which I would like to share and discuss maybe later with you. There are several of them, so I will just continue with the first one, because as you knew, we were the leader of work package 2, which was dedicated to gender equality audit in our organizations. And we all actually faced challenges in data collection due to probably several reasons, maybe lack of awareness, maybe sign of work overload from all the people who were involved in data collection, and sometimes we were discussing whether more time to provide us with gender equality audit with more participatory approach would be probably useful. And from our point of view, when we were reflecting back to the last year, we realized that although the data in terms of numbers are important, but in our case, interviews and focus groups were activities with great potential, actually, because it was not only a place to gather information, it was like the starting point for participatory activities, stakeholder involvement, and actually even a place to prepare a ground for the topic to open the discussion within the institutions and important management structures and so on. So for our from our experience, we realized that if and when we will prepare our gender equality audit within next I don't know, years, we really have to put greater focus on this part of the gender equality audit. And I want to also highlight, maybe you are aware of this book, Data Feminism, which was a great inspiration within the last year for me. And what we have to keep in mind also within gender equality audit is that even data collection is somehow gender related, and a lot of work done behind data collection from the institutes were done by women, and we somehow put more work to administrative staff, which we know is often disbalanced and gender disbalanced, and there is a lot of work done by women which is invisible. And this is something we should also reflect in our maybe gender equality plans or activities in order to make workload more fair and gender fair in our organizations. Also, I want to share the next part of our experience is that, well, to be honest, political requirements are important catalysator in every change within institutions. I mean, probably all of us faced some kind of resistance to thinking about gender equality within academia, but once it was a requirement for funding, somehow everyone was more interested in the issue, and it provided us with a space to raise awareness and really to make work done. But at the same time, for example, in our situation, we were pushed to prepare our gender equality plan ahead before the project actually stated. And that was very challenging for us, and that resulted, for example, in the situation when we could cover only partial data from gender equality audit, but we at least have a very good argument for, a new version of equality plan, hopefully done within next 2 years. And really, when things are done in a rush, which we faced, there is a missed opportunity for greater participatory activities in creating a document, not only prepare a document and send to comments, as Laura actually mentioned, that usually you don't receive a lot of comments, but really to create several, for example, discussing meetings with important stakeholders within the institution is actually something we missed, and we will hopefully be able to implement in future. Another task I want to present at this ground is that although we have adopted our gender equality plan, we have met with one institute within our Slovak Academy of Sciences, which actually decided to also make their own gender equality audit, their own commission, and they are thinking about their own action plan. And actually now we are a close cooperation because we see this as a best practice of, you know, everyday implementation of a institutional gender equality plan, because we realize that really, of course, each institute and each department at the university, for example, they can have a slightly different needs as well as possibilities to create different activities, and often they have also a greater chance to overcome barriers because the communication within team is closer, more, let's say, familiar. And therefore, this is something we are very happy that we are witnessing within the Slovak Academy of Sciences, that this Institute of Electrical Engineering is willing to actually take their own steps to provide better ground for gender equality. So we have this one opportunity, although it wasn't our work done, it's always great to actually share with others some enthusiasm. Also, we face challenges, as everyone here at this meeting, probably with gender equality and its implementation. And probably the main issue for us is a lack of human resources, someone who would be, you know, responsible for the coordination at the Slovak Academy of Sciences office. For now, for example, several activities within our gender equality plan should be done by Commission for Equal Opportunities, which have much more greater agenda to work on. So we are really facing difficulties because, as it was said, this kind of document and institutional change really needs some coordinator, someone who would be really responsible and have the knowledge in strategic thinking, but also in gender equality. Also, the challenges with training implementation. I mean, we decided to employ our trainings with open call. That means that people could sign up for training, but of course, those kind of trainings will only attract those who are already interested in the topic, and we will need to somehow approach also those who don't know actually whether gender equality is something they should be thinking even about. So we realized that we need a deeper cooperation with directors and maybe ask them to organize together with us trainings within their smaller institutes, which will help us to cover also participants who would not voluntarily sign for the trainings, for example. And well, I will probably finish my presentation with some more questions than answers, and that is how to implement gender equality plans in time of crisis and changes. At global scale, we all know we face COVID, war in Ukraine, energy costs, and so on. And yeah, we are witnessing with sometimes responses from different partners within our academy that, well, we understand gender equality is an important issue, but I don't know whether I will be able to pay the bills for our institute. So how can I even think about trainings on gender equality? So really, we will have to, in next years, think about how to gather attention to gender equality when there is no funds, and how to motivate people to attend the event, when they invest energy to volunteering and so on. For example, in at the borders, for example, in terms of Slovakia, there are many volunteers right now who are helping people from Ukraine. And here is the question: should we wait with some activities till the end of the crisis? And probably the COVID learned us that we cannot wait, because the crisis won't be over within 2 weeks. And for us, we now understand, and it's not easy actually to implement, that even our communication strategy within the academy should be different. We should try to frame gender equality as a global, interconnected issue with other crises in the world, actually. And that gender equality is not a bonus in time of peace, let's say, but it's an important precondition which must be actually done in order to face other challenges we are actually facing. And although I'm saying that, we are not still sure how to actually do that in everyday life and in practical terms. And I will be happy if we will be able to discuss that maybe later on. So just to sum up what we have learned, that for sure to do a successful gender equality audit, you need to prepare your ground, so people will be able and will be willing and have time to provide you with data and participate in audit, to really use the participatory potential of interviews and focus groups, because it's an important part of the process. Really, after some trainings we have delivered so far, we realized that we really need more cooperation with directors of the institute to actually deploy other trainings. That's something we will try to do in the next months, actually. And yeah, the last one, as I have presented, frame gender equality issue in a greater scale, as a reaction towards other global and local challenges we are actually now facing. So yeah, and here are some questions which are not answered yet. For example, in our consortium, we probably know that there are some differences in structures and possibilities of different institutions, and I will be happy to learn more about it, how to not only overcome differences, but how we can learn from each other actually and get some inspiration, even though structures are different. How to actually work on involvement of stakeholders, because that is something we are all probably, have difficulties with, and not only external, but also internal stakeholders. And what to do actually when a gender equality plan is missing a full-time coordinator, how other partners are handling this issue, for example. And those are questions I don't have answers for, and maybe we will have time to discuss them later. So thank you very much for your attention. And that's everything from my side, I hope. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miroslava. Thank you very much, because indeed the issue of the crisis and is very, very relevant, apart from very actual, and possibly will affect the coming years. And so I'm taking note of all your questions, and I really hope we will be able to answer some of those in the discussion. I would like to invite now Daniel Pavlo from Ruse University.
Hello, everybody. I have sent my presentation, so is it you to upload it or I to share my screen? How do you prefer?
If you want to share it and manage it, I think, otherwise okay. Otherwise we can do it as you prefer, Daniel.
I will share my screen.
Good.
So do you see the full presentation now?
Yes, yes, we see.
Okay. Okay. So let me start. The main topics. These are the next slides, which I have developed in accordance to the guidelines. What we have done, like involvement of members, etc. And now I'm going to share our experience. And I'm really very happy that I participate, not only me, but 7 other participants from Rus University are in the virtual room now, and we'll learn the experience of the other partners. So this mutual learning is really very important for us. So, which were the main involved people, in fact, for the development of this gender equity plan? We had 2 very important leaders. One is the Professor Sasha Penov. He was external trainer, and in December, you can see him here. In December last year, when we had our trainings, in fact, he made very good analysis on the legislation. Our trainings then were about legislation of Bulgaria. Do we have somewhere discrimination? Do we have somewhere in our legal documents answers how to prevent discrimination? So our advantage is that Professor Sasha Penov was also 8 years Dean of the Faculty in Law of Sofia University, and also he was counsel of our President of Bulgaria about the legal actions, which means that he is from the Supreme Administration in Bulgaria about legal acts. So his involvement was very important, and he gave us this legal point of view of our documentations. And the other person which was very important, this is Diana Antonova, our vice rector in research at the University of Russia. You can see here her participation in the trainings, and after that in the development of gender equity plans. So after we received all the feedback on the work package 2 from over 40 academics at the university, our feedback from Sasha Penov from legal point of view, what to be done and how to be done, and then Professor Diana Antonova, she put all these things together as a vice rector in research at our university. So from this point of view, we have the experience of this Professor Penov from legal point of view. We have the understanding of many academics at our university, what to be done and how to be done. And in fact, we have the most responsible person. This is the vice rector in research, because the vice rector in research is in fact responsible to have no discrimination between the researchers. So all people who are, let's say, at the key positions with key importance were involved. When the other question was how the GEP was negotiated, developed, etc. So we had these preliminary discussions with the rector body of the University of Russia. Professor Penov, he prepared some drafts. Professor Antonova, our vice rector in research, introduced these drafts to the rector body of our university. So we got the first comments from the rector body, and after we put all this data back in the gender equity plan, on the 17th of May 2022, our gender equity plan was approved by the academic council of our university. So how the gender equality is integrated in the institution and main measures adopted and how they were selected. So let's say that these are the 3 types of actions we have in all areas. We have 5 areas of actions, and everywhere we have measures for change the internal regulations at our university. Sometimes these are very small steps, and this is the contribution of Professor Penov. He has read all our internal documents. 3 years ago, he was also professor at University of Russia, so he very well knows how we deal and what we do at our university. So from legal point of view, we had his comments what to be done. Also, we have put in the gender equity plan trainings of the academics, and one training on the ATHENA project will be done in the autumn. We will talk about additional in a while, and also we will have additional reports on the different levels from rector body, from other levels. We will have additional reports. So what we're doing, in fact, if you look at the types of plans, there are 3 types of plans: reactive, proactive, and inactive. The reactive plan is then when you have something happened and you need a reaction in order to restore whatever has been done. Proactive is when you fight with the time. In advance, you want to do something to get prepared, and when a danger or opportunity comes, you to be ready. And the inactive plans, these are those plans which have the main idea to keep the achieved results. So let's say that we have a very good environment about some activities, especially about the mentality. So how to keep these activities at our universities? So that's why these 3 types here, the measures for change of the internal regulations, the trainings of the academics, and additional reports are in fact the instruments mostly to be proactive and inactive, which means to keep what we have done at our university, but also to get ready if there are challenges coming from whatever sources of risks. And these are, let's say, the main barriers, challenges, and main milestones to be highlighted. The very first thing is that the Bulgarian mentality in general is very tolerant about female and male equal opportunities. And this was the constantly repeated answer when we had our interviews on the work package 2. And not only with them, but when we had our meeting with the strategic stakeholders, they also confirmed that the Bulgarian mentality is very tolerant. So that's why, how to keep this tolerance in active planning. Then, Bulgarian legislation avoids any type of discrimination. This is very good, because according to our legislation, any type of discrimination is excluded. It is not welcomed at all. So again, our gender equity plan has to keep these achievements. Many of the people, the academics, but also from the stakeholders, pointed very clearly that males are becoming minority in the Bulgarian educational sectors. And one of the female directors said that very soon the males will be in the red book in the Bulgarian educational sector. So how to attract even more males in our educational system, because you will see a little bit later that really the males are becoming big minority. Then we had this very interesting experience at our university, that talking about discrimination could create discrimination. And some of the females, they were not very happy to talk about these gender equity plans, because some of their comments were, well, I'm a scientist, and do you think that I am a good scientist just because I'm a female, or because I'm a real scientist? So it means that we have to be very careful how we explain to the different participants the idea of gender equality plans, because again, some of the scientists are not very happy when we talk about this topic. And here in brackets, I have put one example, the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment by Jane Elliott. You can see over 50 years ago, you can read it. And after this experiment, are the blue eyes people better or worse than the brown eyes people? This is, let's say, a way when you can create discrimination. talking about discrimination, you can create discrimination. So that's why we have to be very careful how we introduce the idea of the equal opportunities. And one of the very big barrier in front of us, this is the time barrier for preparing any type of reports. The rector body, the deans, any directors of different units are not happy when they have to prepare reports. They are very happy to have activities, to do some things, but after that, we simply don't invest enough time to report what we have done. So maybe this could be one of the time barrier for the preparation of good reports of what we have done. How the monitoring and the evaluation of the gender equality plan will be undertaken. So all these additional reports in our university. Until now, we haven't prepared specific reports only about the gender equality, but now the rector body, the deans, and some other structures, they will be obliged to prepare these additional reports. How the gender equity plan will be disseminated within the institution and externally. So the trainings under task 3.3 with about 50% of the academics will be done in the autumn. And then we will have really very good experiment, what they accept, what they don't accept, so that in the time we can be able to repeat these trainings. Then as a second, you can see here the workshops under task 6.2 with the strategic stakeholders on the regional level. I will show in a little bit some other slides, and additional workshops again under task 6.2 with the Bulgarian Ministry of Education for the national level of the dissemination and multiplication of the gender equity plan. So on the 10th of June, we had at University of Russe our workshop under task 6.2 with strategic stakeholders. And here you can see this is the Minister of Education of Bulgaria. This is our rector. And in fact, what you can see here are males, females, who are principals of secondary school. This is a deputy principal, but all the others are in fact females who are principals of different schools, principals of different organizations. And again, you can see here females, 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 females. So in fact, the only male was a deputy principal, and the principal of his school is again female. So the females here who are stakeholders, all of them said that this should not be against the males in the research and education, but really to look for balance between the two genders. And this was the moment when I was presenting under task 6.2 on the 10th of June, our activities, especially the gender equality plan. And the other event which took place, it was the Aero Access seminar. And then our representative from the Ministry of Education, Ivana Radonova, after we finished this seminar on 20th of June, we had about 30 minutes conversation by phone. And she said that in the autumn, she will start to organize meetings between Rus University and representatives of the other Bulgarian universities in order to introduce our gender equity plan developed under ATHENA project. So she was very happy what we have done. And she also see that there are very big responsibilities about keeping our mentality and also preventing any forms of discrimination in the future. So we have, let's say, the Ministry of Education right behind us as a key, very key strategic stakeholder. And this is one of the ways on the national level we to have more universities involved in our activities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Daniel, for the presentation. I was very surprised when you said that people are tolerant about equal opportunities. I think that then there is a lot of work to do for people to desire having equal opportunity, not being tolerant about this. And yeah, I think you have gave us a lot of things to be discussed in the session afterward. So I would like to give the floor now to Javier Ro from Canary Islands Agency for Research and Innovation. So Javier, are you there? You can share your screen.
Yes, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen, right?
Yes, if you can.
You can see the screen, actually?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Well, first of all, good morning to everyone, and thank you for inviting us to take part of this event. As Michelle said, my name is Javier Ro. I'm coordinating the team of ASICI for this project, for this ATHENA project. And we are actually preparing the final draft of the gender equality to be presented and signed by our director. According to the schedule you propose, do you see this? I'm not going to share the screen directly on presentation mode because it's going to change my screen. So do you see well in that way, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we can.
Okay, this is the schedule for the presentation. I'm going to share a little bit how the ASICI is organized because, as you know, we are only 2 partners as research funding organization, and at some point it's much more difficult for us to understand or even to feel and take part of the surveys because are much more addressed for research organization than for research funding ones. So I'm going to explain a little bit how we are organized and what are the main difficulties we find out when we try to implement this or to organize this gender equality plan in ASICI. So first of all, I just to explain who we are. So we are ASICI is the regional body in charge of R&D&I policies and programs in the Canary Islands government. So we belong directly to the government of the region. And we have 3 main pillars where we are working on. One is the regular framework. We are organizing the policies for RD&I. This means that actually we are working on the new law for R&D that it was not updated from 2001. We are also working on a new plan of R&D that is going to be launched in the next months from 23 to 2030. And finally, since we are managing the FDR funding for RDI, we are also taking care of the new smart strategy, specialization strategy, the S4. Okay. Regarding to the second pillar, the financial framework, we are managing the funding from the national, regional, and EU funding to launch different calls for our regional institutions. And so this is why we are a research funding organization in this specific consortia. And the third pillar is the internationalization. So we are working with the different members of the R&D community in the region. And at some point we are helping them to give visibility in that international level. And at some point we are partners as we are doing here in the ATHENA project, and in others we are working as a coordinator also, okay? So since we explained this, what is the situation of the ASICI, now I'm going to show you what we do to organize this gender equality plan within the institution. First of all, we analyze or we diagnose what was the internal structure of the ASICI and what are our competencies, both internal and external, to address the different points that the gender equality plans require. We also create the focus group as we have commitment with the ATHENA project, and we perform different training programs for the focus group and all the general staff of the assisi. I think this point is important now how we are organized, because at some point the different issues we have to address with the gender equality plan is not directly under our responsibility, since we are part of the regional government, and so we have no competencies to address specific issues. For example, the gender balance in leadership and decision making. As you can see, if this is the hierarchy of the government, we have the president and we have 9 different regional ministries. From these regional ministries, we are here in this part, in the regional ministries of economy, knowledge, and employment. It has also 9 different directorates. One of them is responsible for personnel, and here is ASISI. This is our R&D center, okay, or research funding organization, okay? So, for example, when we try to organize something related with the work and personal life of the organizational culture, it's not under our responsibility, it's under the responsibility of another different department that is taking care for all the government policies, okay? The same for the gender balance in leaderships and decision making. It's not a responsibility of our institution, because this is a political decision. Who is going to be the president, or is let's say in this case is a man, but the name the president named the different regional ministries. In this case, in our ministry is a woman, and our director in this case is a man, but the person in charge of the personnel in our directorate is a woman. So there are some kind of measures that are not a responsibility of our institution by the end. So this happens with different issues that we have to address in the gender equality plan. So we have to focus at some point in what is internal. It means what we can do from the organization of under the organization of our director, and what we can do for example, the calls that we are launching, and where we can take some kind of measures to implement in the gender equality plan. Okay, so the second step we did was what was our structure and how it was organized. And this is the picture what we have. Our management board, as I mentioned, the regional ministry is a woman. The person in charge of the technical secretary is a woman, our director is a man, and the head of area is a man. But then we have more, in this case, more women than men in the different structure of the hierarchies. Okay, in the second table, you can see our structure differentiated by departments. As you can see, in our structure, 66% are women and only 34% are men. So this gives us a picture of what is the situation in the organization. Okay. The second point that we performed was the surveys and the trainings that, according to the ATHENA required, with the different members of the focus group and the staff. We organized different seminars in 2021. And we also, in the second step, in the 2022, we organized the new commission. We named the Equality Commission to be in charge of the gender equality plan preparation and implementation. So we conduct different face-to-face meetings with all the members. We organized a first diagnosis of what was the situation in the different calls we are already preparing. And we prepared the first draft of the gender equality plan that it was presented to all the ecosystem, all the R&D ecosystem and the quadruple helix with the representation in the last month, I mean, the 16th of June. It was presented, this draft, and it was discussed with them if the measures that we are putting in place are the right ones, or if they have some comments or suggestions to be addressed in our gender equality plan. okay? So this is our focus group, and the Equality Commission by the end are much more, are the same persons. As you can see, is represented by 70% of women. That is the reality of the directive center, as I mentioned before. We also perform this analysis of what we are doing for every issue, what we are doing in each point. For example, the work on personal life and the organization, as I mentioned, is something that is affecting to all the regional government. So we have a specific law and a specific measure that are affecting for all the government. The same for the gender balance and the leadership, as I mentioned before. Regarding to the point number 3, the gender equality in hiring, we can take only some measure, not internally, because are affecting also to the general government, but externally, when we are preparing different calls, we are trying to favor hiring women in some of the calls we are launching. That at some point, this is something that we can see later on, is an issue for us, since the legacy at some point is not much with this kind of measures, okay? If you try to promote specifically women in a contract, at some point it's not legal in Spain, because if we are talking about the public sector, since the calls for hiring people should be open, and it's not a discrimination, even for women or even for men. So we have also in the fourth issue, the integration of the gender dimension in the research and teaching content. We are already applying different measures. For example, we are giving additional points in the calls for R&D programs that are coordinated by women. And we are trying to implement a scoreboard of indicators that can give us what is the reality and what is the situation regarding to the gender equality in the different calls we are funding actually, okay? The same for the points number 5 and 6. Most of them are related to the general government, so we have not much to say about that because it's a general issue for the government. And regarding to the communication, we are applying general measures according to the use of the language and this kind of activities. This is just to show you an example of what is the situation with the research funding we are performing actually. This is the name of different calls, okay, we are launching. In this case, the first one is the same call, but in different years, okay? First year, you see that we funded most men, but in the second year, we funded more women. Probably we have only 2 years of a sample and it's not conclusive, but we are trying to follow up from now to the next 5 years. Is this evolution is normal, or what is the, and if some kind of measure is needed or not. It's the same for the different calls we are performing. We are actually working with, for example, the Catalina Ruiz or another kind of calls that we are launching. For example, here you can see the thesis that we are funding. Most of the theses we are funding actually are for women, not for men. And even for the innovation managers we are funding, most of them are women. And I have to say that in most of these calls, we are not putting in place any measure to favor women, actually. Okay, so this is the general situation without any measure. So, according to the first diagnosis, we prepared the new gender equality plan according to the rules that ATHENA provide, and some of the issues we are going to put in place are a continuation of what we already have. Okay, for example, in the issue number 1, as I mentioned, is something general, so we are not going to do something different than we already are doing. Okay. In the second step, for the gender balance in the leadership, we are taking different measures. For example, when we are doing some contracting or subcontracting in our center, we need to establish a contracting table. It means people who are going to decide how it's going to be, who is going to be contracted or not. We decide that this should be a parity. It should be person, women and men should be equally in these decision tables. This is something that we can manage. We are trying to establish some kind of additional scores in those calls that are not actually putting in place this kind of measures, and if it's possible, for sure. And we are trying to continue some grants we are already using. For example, the Women for Africa. This is a specific call we are launching from many years ago. Regarding to the gender equality in hiring and career progression, we are going to act mostly on the external part. It means not in the internal part, that is now not our competence, but in the external part regarding to the calls we are launching. So we are trying to promote and to get the data about how many companies has already implemented gender equality, if they are taking part in our calls, or try to collect the data of this disaggregated data of the institutions we are funding or in the calls we are funding. So this is some kind of measures that we're going to implement in a near future. Finally, in the point number 4, how we are going to integrate the dimension of the research and the teaching content. This is a tricky question, since we are not organizing the research or the teaching as a university can do. So we are a research funding organization, so by the end we can do different things, but probably they are not going to be influence on the research or the teaching content of in this case for the university, for example. Okay, so I'm going to not go in details about this. The same for the measures against gender violence and sexual harassment. This is something that affects directly to all the government. So we are going to has a policy of continuation that we are going performing. And in the budgets for with a gender perspective, what we understand that this is going to be positive is if we are able to extract this data disaggregated by sex, probably going to help us to understand if our budget in a near future for new calls or for the calls that we are running, if we have some kind of deviation. Initially, from the data I showed you before, it seems that this is not the case. But if we analyze the data with a longer period and we understand that there are some measures that are not needed to be implemented, for sure are going to be implemented with the budget. Okay. And finally, regarding to the communication program, we are trying to utilize inclusive languages in all the calls, and as it should be. We are naming the different calls with the name of relevant scientific women in the Canary Islands. But this is something that we already did in the past, from more than 5 years ago. And we are going to continue with trying to promote the science and technology with different affairs for and trying to promote the girls and to be scientists, let's say. So, with the next step, what are the main barriers we find out during this process? Well, as probably most of you know, we have no specific personnel or staff to do the gender equality plan. So this has a limitation of time for the people to take care of the gender equality. So the person that are working on the focus group and in the gender equality equip are the ones that has more implication on the preparation on the gender equality plan. we understand that we find difficulties to get this disaggregation of the data because we in the past it was not prepared, so we have to work with the raw data and identify which are women, which are not women. Another question is that, as you can see, not all of the staff of our directive center are interested in the gender equality. I have to say this because when we're trying to organize trainings, people are really not interested in take part of the trainings. So it's something that probably you have to work on that, but it's the reality. And at some point when we try to implement some kind of measures, for example, quotas, or we want to give additional points for a specific call, we have to be very careful, but at some point are not aligned with the laws, the national laws. So this is also an issue we have to take in account. Finally, the monitoring and evaluation, we establish different indicators for every one of the issues we mentioned before, that in order to quantify what was the initial situation and what is going to be the future in the next 6 months. And we are going to try to present an annual monitoring and evaluation report of how it's going to perform in this equality plan in order to be used this data for the new programs of the new budgets in the next year. About the dissemination, well, we are going to launch our quality plan in our institutional website in order to be open for everyone. We are going to organize some awareness and trainings for the general staff, but these trainings actually are not mandatory, so the people decide if they can attend or not. And we are trying to also to disseminate that we are working on this equality plan to all the R&D ecosystem in the region. We organized a first workshop in the last June, as I mentioned before, where we present this draft, and we are expecting to present the final plan before the end of the year, also in a public presentation for all the R&D ecosystem. Okay, so from my side, this is all. I would like to thank you to all the team that it was taking care and help us to organize this gender equality plan, and they are very committed with the ATHENA project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier, for the presentation. I would like to give the floor already to Gisela Nascimento from the Regional Fund of Science and Technology.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we do, Gisela. Will you share your screen for the
Yes.
presentation? Good.
I will share my screen. Please let me know if you can see it.
We do. We're just missing the presentation mode.
Okay.
Yeah, here it goes.
It's okay now? So,
Yes.
Okay, good morning to all. I am the last presentation, so it's a very hard task. So like Michelle already introduced me, my name is Gisela Nascimento. I am a member of the Directive Board of FRCT, and I am pleased to present you the process of creating FRCT Gender Equality Plan. I will start my presentation with some relevant information about FRCT that I believe it's important to keep in mind. So FRCT is a regional entity of the government of the Azores with the mission to promote and fund research and innovation of the scientific and technological system of the Azores Autonomous Region. So in the consortium, we are the regional research funding organization. FRCT has an autonomous administrative and financial, it's an organization with autonomous administrative and financial entity. So this is important because this gives us a flexibility in some implementation of some plans. And of course, It's more easy for us than for other administrative entities, for example. So we have only 21 employees, and we have a simple organizational structure. A directive board that is constituted by a president and 2 vowels, a man and 2 women. And we have employees with different functions in the organization. So there's just only 2 levels of organization structure. FRCT is constituted by 60% women and 40% male. But FRCT has been fought consistently for the recognition of women's roles in research, implementing specific measures to support women, such as closing the pay gap for pregnant women or maternity leave, for example. However, until this day, FRCT didn't have developed a formal gender equality policy. So in this sense, the FRCT in the ATHENA project relevance allowed us to deeply reflection and obligation to a proper identification of gender bias in our workplace, also for allow us for an official integration of the gender dimension, and of course to respond to eligibility criteria for Horizon Europe funding, because FRCT has also participation in several European projects. And also it gives us a transversal, and also transversal to all these goals, it also contributes for a nice working environment in the institution. So to reach these ends in a most effective way, the ATHENA FRCT team is constituted by a member of the directed board, that is me, a project manager, Carolina Betancourt, that could not be present today, a group of experts from the University of the Azores that collaborates with us in this project. Of course, FRCT GEP committee, and also, and the most important, collaboration with the regional directives for the promotion of equality and social inclusion from the Azores government, that is responsible within the government for these topics. So it was very important to bring them to us to collaborate in this project. So the current GEP began in early 2021 with an initial internal gender equality audit involving the entire organization staff. The objective of this audit was to determine the extent to which FRCT promotes gender equality within its organizational, managerial, and internal work structures, and whether these factors contribute to a gender equality in the organization. In addition to quantitative and qualitative indicators, the gender equality audit of FRCT included two participatory approaches, adapted, of course, to FRCT's characteristics: its small size with only 21 employees and the predominance of women. The first tool was, of course, an anonymous staff survey with 47 questions. We had 71% of FRCT staff responding to the questionnaire, and the proportion of 60% women and 33% men. Despite the small size and certain limitations, the qualitative analysis permitted the identification of some main observations. Women's answers show greater assertiveness about the importance of gender equality and in the identification of discrimination problems concerning the importance of a scientific career and facing obstacles to assess the decision-making positions. Whereas men's answer reveal in a large majority a lack of awareness in general equality theme. It's interesting, but also not surprising that men and women perceive the problem's multi-dimension differently. So the second tool of diagnosis was the realization of 3 focus groups to collective reflection and discussion of this topic. The main outputs for these focus groups were that mainly everyone agreed that there is no gender discrimination in FRCT, so it's positive. Everyone agreed that more women are employed by FRCT because they demonstrate the necessary skills and merits during the public hiring process. So the men didn't seem to be constrained about this. The general awareness also was that it has always been a man holding the FRCT highest position, a president. We have always had a male president. Regarding a more external view on this topic, people in the focus group agreed that gender inequality in society persists, and there is the general perception of greater pressure on women, particularly mothers. Also, women in leadership face exposure-based discrimination, and women achieving a position of authority is regarded as an extraordinary achievement, especially, and this according to women, due to the lack of work-life balance and difficulties to reconcile work and family life, of course, particularly for mothers, of course. The focus groups also contributed to direct inputs for the GEP implementation in FRCT, such as the needs of an inclusive or gender-neutral language, adopting flexible schedules and adjusting deadlines and results, and increasing the number of women in leadership positions. I would like also to highlight that for FRCT, the focus groups were a valuable tool for employees' awareness of each other's challenge in gender equality. This was extremely important, and I dare to say that internally it was one of the most relevant outputs of these focus groups. The establishment of GEP committee was part of the development of the GEP. Here we have our GEP committee. It has administrative staff, project managers, financial, of course, the member of the directive board, as I just said. For the capacity building activities, until now, FRCT made only one workshop for the staff. That was tools for an inclusive Portuguese language, ministered by our gender experts. And the main measures adopted for the GEP and assuming the commitment to integrate the gender dimension into FRCT institutional strategy, and also proposing the development of a medium-term action between 2022 and 2025, FRCT acknowledged the need to adopt only 6 action areas. For each 6 identified areas, 6 specific objectives and 12 measures have been outlined. The specific objectives are directly related to the areas, of course, of action. Some of the actions will be implemented internally in FRCT, and the others are for the external public audience. I will not go thoroughly on these areas. I just wanted to go to tell you some examples, because our time now is short and you all want to go to lunch. So I believe the first area, work-life balance and organizational culture, it's one of the important ones that we we will implement two main actions, trying to organize the work activities of each employee with their coordinator through regular meetings, and this will facilitate the to achieve a goal-oriented work paradigm and flexible working hours, and also allowing a hybrid work model to be implemented. The second area, well, we are going to implement some annual internal events to engage and motivate the teams, also to deconstruct gender stereotypes. Also, we are thinking in this area too, to have leadership and coaching programs for women and men, also to design some developable skills to assess management and decision-making roles. In the area 3, gender equality in recruitment and career progressment, well, this has already been mentioned. It has an interesting action that was the original idea for Sabancı University of Turkey, to promote gender neutral recruitment and hire to implement job shadowing programs. This will be very interesting. If you want in the discussion, maybe we can have a more clear view on this. Also, an action that I believe it's going to be very interesting will be the recognition of domestic and family care skills in the CV of candidates. Okay, this I believe it's going to be very interesting to implement, but we are very committed in doing this. So the next area, it's integration of the gender dimension into research and teaching content. In this sense, FRCT will create an annual award, Women in Science. I believe many of the partners will do the same, especially I believe as Assis will already mentioned before. This annual award will have a financial incentive and will be done with the collaboration of the regional director of the promotion of equality and social inclusion from the Azores government to highlight and even promote more women in science. Also, for the action, the second action of the area 4, we will do also in collaboration with the director, we will create an event to highlight and promote women in science with dedicated lectures for women, try to stimulate more younger women for science. Well, action 5, measures against gender-based violence, including sexual harassment. I believe it's transversal to all the partners. It's important to say here that we will implement a sexual harassment survey within the organization to highlight the level of awareness and information regarding this concept. Of course, the results would then guide a most appropriate campaign to deal with this matter. I would also like to highlight the area 6, institutional communication. Okay, other partners already said this, that it's important to adopt a gender sensitive language and gender neutral visual communication. So we will try to make these guidelines for this gender sensitive communication. Portuguese is I like to say that Portuguese is a very male language, so I believe it's important to make some arrangements regarding this to make it more gender sensitive and inclusive. So we will do that, and also employees will be trained on this matter, and also external audience will be trained on this matter. So for the monitoring and evaluation, the GEP committee will conduct annual monitoring and reporting of collected data that will permit assessing the impact of FRCT objectives and measures after the application period. This, of course, it will be an important task because it will take us in the right way to also try to monitoring results and to initiate an internal discussion on gender equality, trying also to address some important questions regarding this topic and regarding the implementation of GEP in FRCT. The dissemination of GEP, well, to ensure a public commitment, GEP will be disseminated through FRCT public website. Also, of course, newsletters, social media channels. The FRCT GEP committee will organize trainings to raise awareness of unconscious bias while presenting FRCT's Gender Equality Plan. We will organize regional workshop to present the Gender Equality Plan to other regional entities. This will be for us a main task, and I believe here it's going to be our major challenge, because until now FRCT has no major challenges or barriers regarding the development and implementation of GEP, but we are thinking that we will have these barriers when we will try to disseminate and help and extend the implementation and development of GEP to other regional entities. And for regional entities, I mean all the entities of the scientific and technological system of the autonomous region, university, enterprises, NGOs, science centers, and also with the collaboration of the Directorate of the Promotion of Inclusion, we will try also to extend the development and implementation of the GEP to entities of the administration, to regional administration. And I believe that the main challenge and barriers would be in that stage, but we will try to share our best practice within the consortium of ATHENA and all that we have learned with our partners and their challenges and barriers also. So from our side, it is all, and I will hope that you have some questions in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gisela, for your presentation. I know it was a difficult task.
Yeah.
It was the last one. We are a bit late with respect to the agenda, but I think we all need to have a short break to compile ideas after all this presentation. So I would propose, instead of having a 30 minutes break, to reduce it to 15 minutes. So please grab a coffee, a tea, an apple, whatever you want, but something that give you new energy for the discussion. We had a lot of very interesting elements that we will have to discuss and debate about. So take profit of the break. We will come back in 15 minutes, which is for Brussels time 5 minutes after 1 p.m. Is that correct? I'm checking my time. Is that correct? Yeah, so for Bulgarian 1 and Romanian partners 1 hour after, and for us 1 hour earlier. Okay, in 15 minutes we are back. Thank you. Bye. Welcome back. Good afternoon for some of you already. So I think we can start now our discussion. We had some ideas of some facilitating points to be some points that could facilitate the discussion, which were like the main challenges that some of you have already highlighted and key aspects to consider. And going back to the main challenges, I think that one issue that recurred in all presentation was the importance and the difficulties of collecting data, and which is also linked to the fact that we need indeed resources, and those resources are not yet available for this type of task, which also implies that there is still no visibility on the importance of this type of work and to be addressed. So I don't know if you would like to comment. I was wondering also how indeed this data collection will be implemented in the next year, so after Athena project will be over. I give you the floor for discussion. Daniel, please, the floor is yours. You can talk.
Thank you, Michelle. I can share our ideas at Rus University when we will, not me, the vice rector, the deans, etc. When they are preparing their annual reports, they will also include some data about this. So maybe that's why they are not very happy, because this is extra work, extra reporting, and no extra salaries about this. But in our case, this will be the approach. The existing structures, they will provide some extra information.
Thank you, Daniel. When you say extra information, you refer to the gender disaggregated data. I think we should really switch from the idea that this is an extra information to the idea that this is a needed information. In particular, in this area where we are working with big data, to me, it makes like really strange to hear talking about extra information while we are checking every type of data on each profile, on each person. I mean, gender disaggregated data is maybe the first layer that we should have worked with since many years. But I'm happy to hear that you will then continue, and that then Athena has introduced this new practice. I see Romana, please.
Thank you, Michelle. I can easily share our experiences. I can tell you that we have very slim administration, so everybody is very busy, very occupied by work. So when we approach them to ask them to collect this data, which should be manually collected, as I told you in the morning, they were not very happy. And they just postponed the action. Actually, for the first year, collection of the first year was done on time. This manual collection was done on time because the administration could understood we let's say were successful when explaining them the importance of their work. So I think what is important is that they understand that each single person in the administration is very important for building better working environment at Institute. So this kind of discussion is very important. And then when we wanted to let's say somehow automate data collection, then there we have quite a big challenge, because we really had to connect different administration units to discuss with each other, to agree about the things. So this was really, really big challenge. And it was not that there was a lack of will from their side, but the lack of time, I would say. And at that time, just discussions were not enough. We really asked our director to have 2 meetings together with Athena Consortium director and heads of administrative units. And we discussed there in detail what is needed, why is needed, how will it done. And now I think that I'm quite sure that we will get information when asked. And I have to mention also something which was mentioned before, earlier during the presentation, importance of political actions. Not only requests from European Commission, but from 1st of January this year, we have new national legislation on research. And there is a request for such kind of GEP, for collection of data and so on. So with this also communication was easier. This is our experience.
Thank you, Romana. Miroslava, you wanted to start?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the discussion that regarding data collection, it has two layers for me. The first layer is that we should have, and I think, yeah, it should be like normal part of our everyday life, gender disaggregated data, as you, Michelle, said. And ideally, within institution, it should be automatized through, for example, annual reports from the departments and institutes. But for me, the second layer of this question is, after the project, who will be responsible for, I mean, evaluation and reflection, what the data actually is saying about the gender equality within institutions. And that's the actually, for me, very important step within next year to really promote the importance of someone who is actually responsible every year to look at the data, to think whether we need another data, another approach to analyze them and so on. Therefore, so having only raw data isn't enough. We should understand that someone has to be then responsible for, you know, analyzing it. What does it actually mean? What is the story behind them?
Yeah, and I think this connects with the fact that we are lacking resources, and in some cases we are lacking leadership and for these activities, meaning having somebody in charge of it. I don't know if anybody would like to comment more on this. Because another thing I know, I was taking notes while you were presenting, was that there was this approach of making evolution, not revolution. But on the other side, I had the impression from Laura's presentation that somehow this process of developing the gender equality plans could also, in order not to be a revolution, could become more kind of transparent process. So I think we do not want to bother too much, maybe because we have the impression that people are okay with this issue of gender equality, as Daniel was saying, people are fine, are tolerant with this issue. So let's not disrupt the situation. But I think that if we do not have resources assigned for this within the institution, then it means that this issue of gender equality is not receiving the right attention. So probably it's also a matter of finding a compromise between the transparent process and the revolutionary process. So maybe this issue of how you will sustain activities in the future, if there are discussion on the establishment of a gender equality unit, which I think was one of the recommendations we gave, is under development in your organization or not, if other partners would like to comment on this. Also, knowing that from now onwards, the Horizon Europe is requesting to have a gender equality plan, and also not a simply gender equality plan, but following specific guidelines. So is within your organization, is the leadership thinking or the direction thinking of how to comply with this criterion in the future after Athena? Laura, you want to talk? I know you have the gender equality office.
Well, it's not, it is agreed that it should be, it's not let's go, let's see in autumn if everything will be okay. We have a place in a organigramma in the structure of the university where the rector said that it should be included. But for the time being, I'm not very clear about the institutionalized team, mainly after ATHENA. So the rector is very well, you should do it. You, the ATHENA team, you should do this first cycle of monitoring and everything. But what will happen after that? I think this is the right moment to really institutionalize. I was just wanting to make a remark concerning how we should promote better and also linked with data gathering. I heard several times in some of the presentation a focus on the numerical equality. So many women in the management, so many women, and we are so many, it's feminized, there is no problem as reaction received from the institution. And I think that if we, the majority, I think all our institutions are feminized. There are a lot of women. This is not the only story dealing with gender equality. And I think we should all agree on that. And if I go to my university with the idea women should be promoted because they need to be more in terms of numbers, I will do not get support because there are quite a lot of women, but we try to promote all kind of gender issues that are linked with the topic. I think this is very important. It's about substantial equality and all kind of mechanism and discrimination that are not dealing with the numbers. I think this is a less important. We should find, of course, there are things that could be better. There are things that could be seen from the perspective of reverse gender gap. Maybe why they are not students, male students in faculty of languages or so on. Exactly. Yes, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yes, Laura. Yeah. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
I think,
and
I
think
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is, and I think this should be one of the conclusion of the workshop. So I mean, data are very important, but they are not saying everything about gender equality. And I think that there is this general assumption now that when we talk about gender equality, we relate gender with women or female, and we are not talking only about that. And when I saw the picture of a workshop in Ruse University with all ladies, I personally got depressed because we do not want to have only ladies in a workshop on gender equality. We do not want to have only ladies supported at detriment of men. So I think it's true that we have to promote a new understanding or disseminate the correct vision of equality.
I just have a question for Daniel, because you know the way he presented Bulgaria is really challenging for all the others. It seems there are no quite a lot of problems and everything it's okay. At least I know that Bulgaria has an issue with the Istanbul Convention for gender violence. They signed but not ratified, and Bulgaria signed the convention with some pressures and so on. So I think that there are also things there that could be improved at the level of perception and support for gender equality. Not only, this is my assumption, of course, and because I know some things. I just wanted to pinpoint to this.
Laura, I partly share your messages. First, I would like to discuss about the database. You said it's not quantitative data, but qualitative data, which give us right information. I'm an engineer, so for me, numbers are important. But and this is why I said so many times during my presentation, thank you to the consortia, because you weaponed us with different tools, and we found out so many important information also from qualitative data, from, let's say, staff survey, from interviews we had, and so on. So for me, I would say both kinds of data are important. But what I think what was your message, and I cannot agree more, is that we have to pack appropriately. Why are we doing this? And at our institute, we tried to pack this story into the box which offers a better working environment to our institute. So it's not about women, it's not about men, but it's about better working environment. I was a little bit surprised when I was following some presentations in the morning, where when quite some of words were spent for, let's say, women this, women that, women. If there is a majority of women, there is gender equality still important, but it is about gender, man and woman. And at our institute, we discussed quite a lot of issues also with, let's say, our younger colleagues, and then we combined their proposals or recommendations with recommendations of experienced colleagues. So I think if someone is carefully reading our GEP, it is revolutionary. But our path, how did we define it, how it was prepared, was not revolutionary, was evolutionary. Because of all this story and message, we would like to improve our working environment. And by the way, I really believe that we would like to improve our working environment. It's just a story.
Thank you, Romana. Gisela.
Yes, well, I just would like to emphasize some topics that also Romana mentioned. So this gender equality, it's both men and women. So in related to FRCT methodology and discussions, there was something interesting regarding the men of the organization, that several of them, and they are young, so they are in the 30s, 40s, and they didn't realize that there were some questions or there was some issues related to lack of work balance in women, that the women are still struggling to be acknowledged and to be in places of leadership. And for me, it was surprising, because it's for women, I believe that is a subject that it's internal with us, we grow with it. So it's more or less part of our lives. But for them, they thought that, oh, is it really? I thought this is all over from the past, because I thought now, because there was some laws that we have to be in some cases regarding elections or some, there has to be 50% women, 50% men. So there is the general idea in men that we are not struggling with this. So I believe that first action will be to bring the men to this discussion, to have them with us, to say, no, this is still happening. We are still struggling with this. And our employees, the male employees, were very, very aware of this situation, and it was very good in the focus groups. And now they are a little bit more trying to see the other side. So this is good. So this is just to reinforce this, that more men should be brought to these discussions and not just women.
Thank you, Gisela. Absolutely agree. Daniel, did you want to answer to Laura? Because before I gave the floor to Anna.
Very shortly. Our project is about equal rights between males and females, and we keep it this way. So this is my answer.
Okay, Anna, would you like?
Thank you very much. Yes, I would like to add, and I agree absolutely with Romana that we see also the gender equality plan. I am personally as much more wider than not only as improving working conditions, and we, for example, named our gender equality as a social responsible university. So because we have to see it much more as a quality for each of the academic community, and we have to see it in the many issues, because from one side, of course, data collection is challenging. It was also challenging at our university during the diagnosis, because some of data, it was lack of data, or we asked many times from any departments. It was also challenging, but from other side, if we are talking as Mirosława mentioned about evaluation and monitoring, I remember that during our workshop, we discussed that also we need some kind of evidence-based management tool. So it's good that the gender equality plans, and in ATHENA project, we have committees that involves many members from any positions. It is very important because in our country, in our university, I see the need of raising awareness and understanding what we are doing. So as I mentioned, sometimes we are not, it's not only about the gender or kind of gender ideology, because we hear sometimes also that understanding, but it's about the a better environment. I'm a researcher too, and I have 3 kids, and I know what I had a way, my scientific way, and what are challenging, not only the woman with the kids, because we also during working under the gender equality plan, we met with the some reflections that it's only about, for example, women with kids. No, it's about the equality and better environment and social responsible. We see that. But from other side, if you are planning some actions, we are also have to see what are the results of our, and we have to find the way how to measure our results, how to see results. So, and as I mentioned, after the workshops, ATHENA workshops, we discussed that it should be also the evidence-based. So in my opinion, it's many issues with data gathering, but also the some kind working with the people and discussion with people and training. So it's a lot of areas that we have to work. It's not only about data and gathering.
Thank you, Anna. Indeed, I agree with you. So probably the first level of work is ensuring equitable and good working conditions. But then it's true that we have also as, I mean, for most of you as university, but also the research funding organization. So there is also this role of disseminating other values, you know, and practices in our territories, and I think this is very important, and this is why we work with stakeholders. And there was coming to this thought. I know there was a question on the differences between research funding organization, higher education institution, and I don't know if anybody would like to comment on those. if you have seen specific differences. I know, I mean, when it comes to research funding organization, we had a workshop with ATHENA a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, in their case, I don't know if for FRCT is the same, but in their case, it really, I mean, the impact they can have in society by setting specific criteria to certain calls is direct. So in that sense, I really see a big difference. And Javier was, for instance, mentioning that they give a higher score to those, or additional score to those applications which are, for instance, coordinated by women. And so we see that at least the potential impact is very big. Then when it comes to research performing organization, maybe which are not, for instance, teaching, do not have maybe teaching activities, maybe it's more difficult, and possibly higher education institutions have again a potential bigger impact. In terms of institutional structure, I don't know if there is really a difference, on an important difference. I think Miroslava was addressing this in her presentation, but if you would like to comment or share your thoughts on this.
I can just only briefly, for example, in many cases, when we were doing our gender equality audit and interviews and focus groups, so for example, the issue of gender-based violence or sexual harassment, students were reporting to their experience from universities, and they were referring that it is not happening in our institution, in academy. And therefore, we were thinking, what are the dynamics in university settings where maybe, I don't know, maybe in Slovakia, there is a greater focus on teaching, and therefore there is a greater power imbalance, for example, in the structures. But that's open question. I don't have answer for that, for example, because we are not a teaching institution. We do not, it's only on individual preferences of some of the researchers, but they are not, it's not mandatory to teach in our organization. So, for example, that was one thing we were facing, but I don't know whether that's the coincidence only, or it is something which may be relevant to actually follow what are the reasons behind, for example.
Yeah, we would need to make quite a bigger work to analyze those, but I think this is definitely interesting. And in this sense, I think that the other way we should present the issue of gender equality, for me, is not only talking about justice and rights, but talking about competitiveness. Because I think the point about this is also that we are missing talents. We are missing talents on both sides just because of stereotype that prevent a girl to apply for a certain career or a boy to apply for another career, and in this sense, or for a person to decide to advance in their career because there are not ideal working conditions. So I think that this is also another way we should present this issue. So we are really being less competitive because of gender inequality, or because inequalities in general. I wanted to raise a point because when we were talking about sustainability, I was very positively surprised by a Romana comment. You were saying, Romana, that you will include in your annual assessment report of your organization like the monitoring of gender equality data. Is that correct? I understood it well.
Yeah, it's correct, but I cannot explain you really the things in detail, because this is connected also with the new national legislation, as I mentioned already. It was long expected and gives us opportunity to develop and be more competitive with other excellent institutions throughout the world, because we are very internationally oriented. And a part of the new things which will be introduced is also the self-assessment of institution. And part of this self-assessment will be also assessment of realization of a gender equality plan. But this is actually requested also, if you read carefully messages of European Commission, it will not be happy just that we send them the gender equality plan, but at some point of the time they will also request the results of this action plans from us. So we are backed up by the European Commission, we are backed by the national legislation, and now we are also preparing our internal act about stable financing and assessments and so on. And we are going to include somehow also this assessment of the gender equality plan. So I worked 14 years for nuclear safety, so I prefer to be backed by several mechanisms to be on the safe side. So yes, Michelle, I really believe that the people at our institute now understand the added value, and that it will be included in such a way. Yeah.
Good, Romana, thanks.
And maybe just explanation, just to remind you, we are going to sign a contract for new employee, which will be, let's say, which will be responsible for at least for gender issues at institute later on, even later on when the ATHENA project will expire. So there is already some inbuilt, let's say, assurance in the institute for sustainability.
Right. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, we want all this gender equal or equal approach mainstream in the organization, rather than having like eventually even separated board taking care of that. But maybe we will achieve that in the long run. Maybe we can use these last 5-10 minutes to address the issue that Miroslava raised about how to ensure that gender equality will be addressed in times of crisis. I mean, to me, all this make me think of how we forgot climate change during COVID. And I think it's a bit a similar situation. So we are actually now facing a lot of crisis, and we don't really, we risk to forget about other things which are maybe not like new, but are old challenges. So I don't know if anybody would like to share thoughts on this. Daniel, please.
In the case of Rus University, it is really important to have clear internal regulations, because what we do, this is according to the regulations. And if the regulations are sustainable in a legal way, it means that in terms of any other crisis, I am obliged by law to act in that way. If our internal regulations and if our national legislation gives us big freedom to choose what to do, then in a time of crisis, we can act not properly, but in according to the people with power, those who dictate us what to do, and definitely we will have problems. So our advice, our experience in Bulgaria, and particularly Rus University, is well-prepared regulations, internal regulations in the university, which to guarantee for long period of time that any crisis which comes, we are already facing it with respect to the males and females. This is our case.
Thank you, Daniel. I see your point. I think that the question was rather focused on how to ensure, if we are lacking resources in a normal situation, how we will ensure there will be enough resources for supporting gender equality, the development of gender equality plans, implementation of those plans in a situation where resources are not there, and maybe there are other priorities. I think that was rather the question of Miroslava, but I'm glad to hear about this regulation. I always wonder, I mean, I'm Italian, and Italian do not want to offend anybody, but we are particularly good in not respecting regulations. So I always think that regulations are useful if there are kind of control system and sanctions. Otherwise, maybe some people will not follow regulations, but yeah, it's good to know that at least regulations are there. Miroslava, you want that? I saw you, no, I saw you put on your video. Maybe this issue of this could be interesting to Gisela. You wanted to add something?
Well, just to say that it's like a $1 billion question, right? Because if we start thinking about war, there's no regulations or procedures that we are going to follow. So of course, there's several levels of war. Ukraine is at war. We are, the rest of the Europe are just struggling with their war, but we have some problems already. But of course, this is a question that will make us, if we are at war, if the governments will face several needs, basic needs. So these issues will be a little bit secondary or tertiary. So for me, I don't know how can we ever manage to put gender equality in that framework. But it will be very interesting to do this, but I believe it would not be possible to go to several topics, several issues, to respond to several issues, namely gender equality, when we are facing basic needs. So I don't have an answer, Miroslava. I just, it's a reflection, okay? Of course, it's just a reflection.
But I think that already, like, maybe conveying this message that we are worried about the crisis might redirect attention towards other priorities and make gender equality not a priority any longer. Already, like, giving this alert could be a starting point, even if we do not have finding solution, yeah, right now.
Yes, of course, and try to be prepared, of course, always.
Exactly.
I don't want to be negative, sorry.
No, Gisela, you were not, absolutely. I was just trying to always find like a good way, at least to a step further that we can give. Is there any other comment or question? Otherwise, I think we can move to the conclusion. I think there are not. So it's good. We still have 30 participants almost. So we at least, yeah, those participated, assisted to the discussion. As for the conclusion, I don't know, I had the impression that an important issue was the one of data, of the importance of collecting data, but also the fact that data are not portraying the whole situation. On the general worry and importance of having resources dedicated to the implementation of the plans right now, but also in the future, in particular after ATHENA project will be over. I was wondering if in a sense, maybe we could propose recommendation, a kind of tool or support from the European Commission for those projects that have been funding under Horizon 2020 and now Horizon Europe to ensure, maybe it could be even the topic of the next workshop. So to learn from very previous project, how did they continue their activities once the European funding was over. But so the importance of that, as well as of the importance of mainstreaming, integrating some of the activities of the foreseen in the gender equality plans in the routine mechanism of the organization and in the administration flow of the organization. So for data collection and for other activities. And also I think that one important aspect was to convey a different new image of gender equality, which is not only female equality, it's really about equality across gender and across other personal characteristics and aspects and choices. And for the crisis, yeah, the idea that we should not forget about the importance of gender equality in face of other more urgent issue. I had the impression these were the main points that were discussed. Please tell me if I forgot something. Romana, please.
Can I add something? Excuse me, I'm discussing too much, but our project is about equal opportunities in research. But can we add to the conclusions the importance that really all employees are included, that we really have in mind all employees in organization when we are talking about gender equality is so important. That our institute, of course, the excellence of our institute is built on the excellent researchers, women and men, but they could not achieve these results without an administration. We are talking about how to overcome this, divide at the institute. But I think to overcome this divide, also when designing GEPs and when implementing them is so important. And if this could be one of our conclusions, I would be very happy. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not sure if I got it. When you refer to all employees, so meaning that we are talking always about researchers and we are forgetting administrative staff within the organization. Okay, we will highlight this. I think, yeah, I see your point. I see your point. We will include it in the conclusion. Thanks for highlighting that. Good. If there are no other comments, I would really like to thank you for your participation. Just to, we will have to have more mutual learning workshop